Hello, I want to tell you a little about myself and my experience with the natural fertility prescription. My name is Krista, I'm 27 years old and I live in Sydney, Australia. There's a bit of a background story to how we came to find the natural fertility prescription, so I'll start with that. When we first tried to fall pregnant, we expected that it would happen instantly. When it didn't, we began to worry but persevered. I'd been on the pill beforehand and we just assumed it needed time to get out of my system. But by 12 months we were quite upset at the possibility that maybe we couldn't fall pregnant naturally. So we got a referral from our GP and saw a gynecologist. What followed was several tests which were painful and upsetting to say the least. It just didn't make sense to us. We were both younger than 30, we didn't drink alcohol, tea or coffee, we didn't smoke and we weren't overweight. What further worried us was that the tests weren't revealing why we weren't falling pregnant. There were a few readings that were low, but the doctor said that they shouldn't be an issue. So the doctor did say that in 10% of cases they can't find a reason for apparent infertility, and we probed him about the possibility of stress being the reason. He acknowledged that stress can contribute to fertility, but he said there was no way of really knowing, so there was no point worrying about it. So after 3 months, the doctor had exhausted all tests that were available except for one, and that was called a hysteroscopy and laparoscopy, and that's keyhole surgery. And that's where they inject some ink into the fallopian tubes to ascertain whether there is a blockage. And this was a particularly traumatic experience for me. I was very scared of surgery, and the hospital environment was less than friendly. In fact, it took an argument with the nurse and me bursting into tears just to get permission for my husband to sit with me in the waiting room. Then recovery was painful. It took approximately a week, with the second week feeling very tender and a bit off colour. And again, they didn't find anything. The gynecologist told us the only other option was IVF and that we could start that soon, but in the meantime, just to relax and not think about it. He indicated that it was unlikely we would fall pregnant on our own if we hadn't already, so there was no point stressing about it. He did mention that sometimes people fall pregnant soon after the surgery. They don't know why, but assume that it might be because the procedure flushes out a blockage of some kind that wasn't picked up in any other test. But he didn't want us to get our hopes up because that was kind of rare for that to happen. So IVF was the next step for us. But I was terrified of that because of the needles and that you have to self-administer and the long and emotional process. So, needless to say, I was praying for a miracle. A month later, I still hadn't got my period back. We'd been told it could take a couple of weeks because the surgery involved a curette. But finally, after 6 weeks, I took a pregnancy test and discovered I was pregnant. We were absolutely ecstatic, of course, and the last 16 months didn't seem to matter anymore. We assumed, of course, that I'd fallen pregnant after the operation, and so we used the operation date as my LMP to calculate my due date. But then we were quite shocked when we went for an ultrasound, expecting that I was almost 14 weeks, to find out that I was in fact 17 and a half weeks. Now this brought my due date forward a whole month, which we couldn't understand because this would have meant that I was pregnant during the operation. So I discussed this with the gynecologist, who said that the embryo must have been in the fallopian tubes and not yet implanted in the uterus. He assured me that the ink used in the operation would not have affected the embryo, that if it had, it wouldn't have led to a successful pregnancy. But it was very unusual, considering the nature of the operation, that it had led to a successful pregnancy, so he said. So it was quite a miracle that I was pregnant at all. So now fast forward to after I had our first son, Aiden. 4 months later, I found out that I was pregnant again, which was great news for us. We wanted another baby, and again I had a successful pregnancy and birth to another boy, who we named Kai. Now after Kai's birth, I was breastfeeding both boys, and my period didn't resume until 6 months later, which is normal for breastfeeding. However, we then expected that we would be able to fall pregnant again soon after I got my period back. Unfortunately, we didn't, and again, we began to worry. I'm sure you can understand that once you've experienced infertility, that fear kind of stays with you, and we started reliving our fears from before when we'd experienced infertility. It really started to play on our minds that maybe somehow falling pregnant the second time had been a fluke or something, and that maybe we would only ever be able to have 2 children. And I guess I just want to make a comment also about that emotional roller coaster that you go on when you're experiencing infertility. That after the fact, it's easy to say, oh, there was nothing to worry about. But while you're experiencing it, you don't know that you'll fall pregnant in a few months, and you don't know that it's only a temporary problem. And, you fear the worst, that it could take years, or maybe you might never be able to fall pregnant. So that really plays on your mind, and I can really empathize with that fear. So anyway, I had become aware of natural therapies during my second pregnancy, when I'd done a lot of research on natural birth and trusting your body and all of that. And so after 6 months of trying to fall pregnant, after I got my period back, I began researching natural therapies in relation to infertility. We really wanted to have more than 2 children, but we decided that there was no way we were going to go down the medical path again. That was quite traumatic for us, and we were now blessed with 2 children, so we felt it was better to accept that and try some natural things, and if they didn't work, we would have to accept that we would only have 2 children. And I really felt at the time that I needed to relax. I really felt like me stressing about it was making it worse, and I just needed something that gave me enough hope so that I could trust in my body and, trust that everything would be okay. So I scoured the internet, and I found lots of info on, natural pills and herbs and all of that sort of thing. The only problem was that they were expensive, and they had success stories too, but I don't know, I just didn't know whether I could trust them and exactly how much I should take, or how much I should buy, or how long to try them for, and it just seemed so strange to me trying to take pills that I didn't fully understand how they worked and how to take them and so forth. So finally, I came across Eva's site, and it just clicked. I loved that it took a holistic approach. It wasn't about one magic pill, but it approached your body as a whole and addressed health from a number of different angles. And it was also really affordable and practical and accessible. It was easy to follow and achievable. So I ordered it and instantly felt calmer. I felt hopeful again, that I didn't need to worry because I was doing something positive rather than waiting and wallowing. I was able to relax and think positive again. Now, it actually turns out that a month later I fell pregnant. I had barely started the program. I wasn't going to do the pregnancy test, but my husband insisted, and I thought, oh, gosh, it can't have worked this quickly, and I really didn't want to be disappointed again by a negative result. So I was just going to wait and trust my body that it would all happen. But we did the test, and I was pregnant. Anyway, I honestly believe that I fell pregnant because I had relaxed, and I had trusted that all would be well in time. Now, I do understand that everyone's condition is the same, is different. In our case, we experienced unexplained infertility, so in many respects we attribute our infertility to environmental factors like stress. So for me, getting rid of that stress was a big issue, and I feel it was a big part of helping me to fall pregnant. So I learned a really important lesson from this experience. I learned once and for all that my body is not a lemon. It took 3 pregnancies for me to figure that out. That my body was capable of falling pregnant, sustaining a pregnancy and birthing a baby, and that it wasn't a fluke. my body just needed time, and I needed to allow it time to fall pregnant when it was ready. The experience also helped me to change my attitude about fertility treatments. All the time before, I saw my body as inadequate, something that needed to be fixed, like my body was missing something, and I needed to get that from medicine or even natural therapy, something external to me. But what I realized was that natural fertility prescription is not about something external, fixing you. It's about change happening from within and rediscovering your internal resources and, rebalancing your body the way nature intended it. And that optimal health will then lead to pregnancy. And I don't believe that optimal health refers only to physical health, but also to emotional well-being, and that those two are connected. I highly recommend Eva's program. I believe that she's a dedicated and passionate person who wants to help people reclaim their fertility in a very polluted world that we live in today. I'm really disappointed that the medical world often disregards natural therapies, when often natural therapy can be more effective and far more gentle than medical procedures. I really wish I had known about natural fertility prescription when we were first trying to fall pregnant. Absolutely certain it would have been a far more positive experience than what we had, with the medical tests. I definitely recommend trying natural fertility prescription before going down the medical path. You can always do that after if it doesn't work. And now I know that when we begin trying for our fourth baby, that I'll be relaxed and trust my body that it knows when to fall pregnant. And, I can always turn to the natural fertility prescription again for guidance on optimal health to help with that. And I think that is the greatest gift that I've gotten from the natural fertility prescription, that I don't have to worry, and that I have something to help guide me to optimal health, and that then my body will do the rest. So I think trust your body and trust nature and trust the natural fertility prescription, and throw in a little faith, good measure. I wish you all the best in your fertility journey.